Welcome to Up the Gut, the John Cena of XFL podcast, because you can't see us.
Let's go, baby. Raise it hell today, okay? Bring the dude today, brother. Let's get it.
You're going to be standing right next to me, man? Let's go.
Do what we do now. Let's go, boys. Let's go. Let's do a thing now. Take off, kid. Take off, kid.
Run.
Far side of the 10. Step back to the 5. 10 to the end zone.
What a play.
I want to welcome everybody back. This is our second podcast. This would be going into week 2 of the XFL season. I am going to pass it along to my cohort, Matthew Archibald Ehlers.
Still not my name.
He is going to take the lead because, you know, when you got Joe Montana, you don't start the backup. So off to you, Matthew.
I appreciate it, Patrick. This will be a much quicker show than last time. We'll just go over what happened in week 1 of the XFL, take a look at the player of the week, take a look what's coming up this coming weekend, including the injury report, and we will make our picks as we did last week and hopefully do a better job.
I was not really disappointed in our picks. I mean, 2-2 on an unknown league and blind picking based off of names that we might have heard off the practice squad. I thought we did all right. I will say that after the week happened, I look at the picks that I didn't get and I thought, why did I make such a dumb pick?
Oh, well, I know why we made one dumb pick, and we'll get to that in just a bit. I'll tell you, I feel a little betrayed.
It's just because you went against the DC Defenders. That was your dumb pick. But anyway.
No, I don't think that was the dumb pick. I think us picking the Vipers was the dumb pick.
It really was, and we will get into that. But you go ahead and start us off with my DC Defenders versus the Sea Dragons.
Yeah, that was the inaugural game of the season. Seattle traveling down to DC for the opener, and going into halftime, it was a really close game. I believe it was 13-12 in Seattle's favor. But then the second half, much like the Kansas City Chiefs, the Defenders suddenly turned it on and ended up winning the game 31-19.
I think the spark was really an interception. That kind of gave them the juice to turn it on and start scoring. We did get 2 interceptions. I will say that the very first tackle in the new XFL was by the one and only AJ Tarpley. Now,
indeed, he didn't have the interception and sack you were hoping for, but he did have 5 tackles and a pass defended, which isn't bad.
Yeah, he was solid. Getting used to it. I did see his name pop up on the injury report, which we'll get to. This was my bold prediction game, as I predicted Cardell Jones to go over 300 with 4 touchdowns. He did not do that, but he was still pretty solid.
He got half of that. 235 and 2 touchdowns.
Yep, he did good. The one thing I noticed about all the games that I watched is, it's the first game of the season. It's a new season. They don't have nearly the build-up that the NFL does. So it really seemed like everybody was getting their feet up underneath them, getting ready for this. So it started off slow in about every game. So seeing this, I'm glad that it finally picked up. Seeing Cardell Jones get out there, really start chucking the ball, seeing the defense step up. Seattle really had me scared for a while. I'll tell you that Austin Proehl, former Buffalo Bill, did have a really good game with 88 yards, 2 touchdowns, typical slot receiver, speedy, quick, and great when it got to the red zone, because a couple of those slants were just immediate. It was nice to see, even though it was against my team.
Yeah, but no, like your name says, you defended right when you needed it most, though, because that second half was pretty one-sided.
It really was, and seeing what our defense did, that's really where it came down. And this is really, let's just get to the overall of the league. I am thoroughly impressed with what the XFL has given us here. The rule changes, the way everything's working out, because how nice is it to see on 4th down? It's just not an automatic punt. You don't get those lulls, especially if you have a bad team. You're actually getting more people going for it. You're getting more action. and I've even noticed when it comes to the runs and the passes, the short passes, it seems like, and maybe it's just because it's beginning of the season, maybe they're just starting out, but it seems like everybody's getting to the line quicker. There was a lot of negative yardage runs, a lot of at the line runs. Like they were just there. They were getting after it.
Yeah, not a lot of rushing by either team, really. I mean, well, the Seattle had a little bit better of a running attack. They had 97 rush yards compared to DC's 68, but again, no one running back really stood out. It all came down to the passing game, and uh, Jones came out ahead because he didn't make any mistakes, never turned the ball over, and honestly, that was the big key for DC to build that lead.
Yeah, and if you look at the stats, you don't have any wide receivers over 100 yards. It was very spread out. You don't have any running backs over 100 yards, and you have multiple. I mean, you have 3 running backs or a receiver. I mean,
Didn't even have any running backs over 50.
yeah. And that's one of the things about this league. I don't know if it's just because it's a new league and they're just trying to figure these players out since a lot of them come off of practice squads, but it looks like it spreads out really well. I mean, on a lot of the games, there's no like one standout wide receiver. Even the running backs where you expect there to be one standout guy, there really isn't. So maybe the runs will pick up in the end, especially when it's basically a 4-down league. It's not even the fourth quarter, it's every quarter. It's a four down league. So you figure you can run for 3 and then pass on the fourth if you have to. It gives you more wiggle room there.
It does, but I think once these teams start really get into a groove, because like you said, it's not like the NFL. They didn't have 4 weeks of preseason to get things going. They had practice for a little while, and then they just had to jump right into it. But if this at least keeps progressing, and once teams get that identity, I honestly think Pro is going to be one of the top receivers in this league. I think he'll get at least 200 or 300-yard games before this is over.
You and I are on the same page, but being the Buffalo Bills fan that I am, I saw Prohl be in this. I knew how good he was. I think I told you people were up in arms whenever we didn't sign him to the active roster. So I think that he will. Yeah, he will be back in the league. He will. I mean, in the league, he will be back in the NFL soon, which I think will be tough for the XFL because it is going to basically become a farm system. Even if it could stand on its own feet with the product that it gives us, I still think that the NFL is the premier league here. That is what people are trying to get to. So that is going to be the problem with this. The nice thing is with such a small percentage of college players getting into the NFL, there is an endless supply of people to go into this XFL. I mean, even some of the names that you wouldn't think, even though I did just read that Antonio Brown said no to the XFL, that may be an option because he's created quite a mess. Could you imagine him going to a team? What would happen? not to speculate too much, but just some of those names pop up. I mean, what if Andrew Luck just decides, well, that sounds like fun?
I think that'd be great for the XFL to get a name like that. Either one of them, honestly.
Isn't Oliver Luck running it? Isn't that his dad?
Yes, it is.
Well, I mean, that is a possibility. I highly doubt it, but it is a possibility. So looking at this is one of the more lopsided victories, one of the 2 lopsided victories of the week.
And the crazy thing is neither team had much of a pass rush either. Both defenses only got 1 sack apiece.
I noticed that about a lot of this, a lot of the games, there wasn't a ton of pass rush. And I don't know, do you think that might be the 25-second clock, just the fact that they're always moving, they don't really get a chance to catch their breath?
It could be, because it's definitely a lot faster pace, and from watching football all these years, we definitely realize that if you run a quick offense or a no huddle, it definitely benefits the offense way more.
Yeah. So being that my DC Defenders did go up and win by 31, won 31 to 19. Do you feel like Seattle is that bad, or do you feel like this just kind of got out of hand?
I think it's just the Defenders are that good. I think Seattle is a good team, but it seemed like once they fell behind, they kind of panicked early.
Yeah, I don't think that Seattle is this score. I think this very well very easily could have gone the other way. I think Seattle was in this. They actually looked better than the defenders in the first half. So I look forward to seeing next week and seeing what they do. Obviously, there's going to be some overreactions on some of these games with some people. There may even be some individuals who don't get a start anymore, but I hope not, because this is the beginning. This is just starting. So moving off of this game.
Yeah, we go to LA visiting Houston. One of the two teams who won by 20 this weekend, it was Houston, beating LA by the score of 37-17.
So this one is probably had the biggest after effects of all the games, the most repercussions, because following this game, the Los Angeles Wildcats fired their defensive coordinator and Pepper Johnson.
Yeah, they didn't give him much of a chance at all, did they?
No, they really one game in, that you can't figure that this one outing would decide that he's going to be fired. There had to have been some other factors in this decision.
Maybe. I mean, they haven't really said a whole lot about it, but I still can't believe that in a brand new league with a brand new team, you're going to give a guy one game and then just go, you know what? No.
It's true. It's really surprising, and it's kind of fun watching this league. It's so new, and you really just can't catch everything that's going on right away.
Yeah.
But what I did hear is Winston Moss is going to take over the calling duties for the defense. But in the firing of Pepper Johnson, their linebacker Anthony Johnson was a little upset about how it went down. And so we get our first in-season trade with Anthony Johnson being traded to my DC Defenders.
Your DC Defenders.
For Bradley Silve, however you want to pronounce it, which was one of the defensive backs that got an interception during our game. So I don't know if we really needed to go into that right off the bat, but I wanted to knock that out, get that taken care of, and then we can talk about the actual game that went down, because
let's talk about Mr. Walker.
That's what I'm saying. I was so impressed by this guy, because if I listened to our last podcast and not knowing the name, I kept saying, "Oh, Philip Walker." I think it's Philip, because that was on the sheets. So I kept saying Philip Walker. Well, it's PJ apparently. I apologize, PJ. But he was dropping dimes on everybody. And the thing that impressed me most, not only just the yards he got, but he has 4 touchdowns, passing touchdowns to 4 separate receivers.
Yeah, he spread the ball out real good. And again, no one receiver went over 100 yards receiving for them. Only one went over 50. Phillips was 67 and a touchdown. So, yeah, he spread the ball out really good. Didn't focus on one guy. So, honestly, it feels like Los Angeles just didn't know who to cover.
It really did. And the one thing I do notice looking at these stats is the targets to receptions, and trying to remember everything from these 4 games. And that's one thing we are going to fix, I think, with this is, the games were on a Saturday and Sunday. Here it is Friday. That's a lot to remember. I was just in the other room watching the Vipers play the Guardians, because there's just trying to remember why the game was so bad. So as far as the Vipers performance, because it still hurts me deep down. So we are going to start, I think, trying to record on a Monday. This is new. The league's new. The podcast is new. So we're just trying to figure this out. But if you look at the targets versus receptions, I mean, Cam Phillips, 50%. But Holly there and Lewis, only 3 not caught between them. But look at Sammy Coates, 2 receptions on 9 targets. And that was someone I thought would come out being really good.
So, I mean, I didn't get to watch this game because of some technical difficulties in my area, but we don't know if those might all be drop passes. I mean, he only had a 60% completion percentage, so there could have been some bad throws in there.
I mean, it's a possibility. Good defensive play.
Because he did also throw a pick.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I saw that pick. That was towards the end of the game, which is another thing I like about this league. This game was out of hand. They never stopped throwing the ball.
Well,
So
it's because you can't run out the clock thanks to that comeback time.
exactly. So that's something that I'm actually pretty happy with is the ability for this to just keep going. Now, if you look at the other team, obviously
Oh,
they're just wrapped up in a lot of turmoil right now with everything that's going on. Uh, but were they as bad as what they're making out to be? Was the defense that bad?
I
Uh,
think it's, I think part of it might have been the offensive line. I mean, because between the two quarterbacks that played, they got sacked five. They got sacked 5 times, threw 2 interceptions. I mean, it just seems like that Houston pass rush was just really giving them fits.
well, Ola, you see the receiver you got there, and Nelson Spruce. I said there was no real one standout for the team except here. He was targeted 15 times.
Yeah, but
He got
Kyle Leonard,
103.
yeah, he broke the 100, but they only found the end zone one time, despite their 43 pass attempts. They found the end zone once,
And
and,
that
and
seems,
they had and they had one rushing touchdown.
yeah, and that seems to be something I've noticed a lot. That was a big hindrance to Tampa Bay that I watched. They would drive and then they couldn't finish it when it got down onto the opponent's side of the field, uh, which is another thing I'm going to watch with the league. Is this something that's going to be common? Uh, why aren't they finishing? Do they kind of get that sense of, okay, we're almost there. Let's not mess this up. And that's the thing that I hate watching in any football is you spend all this time or all this portion of the game driving down the field. Then all of a sudden you try to play it safe. Well, you dance with the girl you took to the show. You don't
Yeah,
you don't try to switch up what has been working. So I'm going to keep watching that and look for it. But I will say that Chad Canoff, I mean, his stats aren't bad. 21 to 39, 54% completion rate, 214 yards. He does have a pick, but
so,
it kind of got away from him in the end. That's one thing I remember watching this is the commentators said maybe it's time to pull him, give him a chance to reset, and then bring him back because all it's doing the end of the game got away from him, and that'll happen when you're down, obviously.
yeah. I mean, because that's a pretty low completion percentage. That's good old Jameis Winston territory.
Well, it is a low completion percentage, but in this league of NFL practice squad quarterbacks or NFL castoffs, we really are honestly in the 54 to 62% completion percentage range. That would be what I would expect out of these players. I mean, you can obviously disagree with me, but that's just kind of how I feel when I look at this.
I mean, it could be, but I feel like as the season goes on, if you want, I mean, obviously it shows right here in the first week. If you want to win, you got to hit more passes.
Well, I mean, Cardell Jones was 62%, PJ Walker 61%.
61.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those
and
are
they
probably
won.
the two best passing performances that we had this week. I'm just checking the Seattle and the Dallas game.
Overall, yes, but as far as just pure completion percentage, no, the top two were both in the St. Louis and Dallas game, which we'll get to in just a bit.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. That you got 74% and 79% completion between the two, and the better quarterback numbers were on the losing team. And look at the scores on that, though. So I don't know. We'll see. We got such a small sample size. So looking at it, I don't think LA probably needed to fire the defensive coordinator. But we'll
Not
see
right off the bat like that. No,
if PJ Walker goes out against your Battlehawks and can't hit a receiver. Maybe they were right, but again, small sample size. But I don't think that this is what we need to do right now. I don't think LA, should start selling off the team. I don't think they should. The fans should panic. I think this first week someone had to
yeah,
lose.
yeah,
It was
somebody had to lose.
no preseason, low amount of practices, no reason to panic. So on we go.
Yep, here we go to Tampa Bay visiting New York, and the offensive genius that is Mark Trestman got us 3 points.
Which
This is the other game where with a 20 point spread because New York just trounced them 23-3.
Yeah, and like I said, I was just watching this game, and what I noticed and watching the first half is the offense of the Vipers looked amazing. They were just slinging it, hitting everybody, and it looked good.
Sure?
Yes, in the first half, it looked the first quarter especially, it looked
And they
good.
just kind of fell apart.
I mean, Aaron Murray, 231 yards. He wasn't that bad of completion percentage in the beginning, but he was looking good. And the problem is what we talked about earlier. They couldn't finish. The Guardians, they finished. They went up 14-0 real quick. Matt McGloin looked good. The running game was not existent except for on the 2-yard line, and they were amazing. So,
yeah, Matt McGloin with their only rushing touchdown.
Yeah, and that was the first one. He just it was on the one, just bulldogged it right in there. This wasn't a horribly exciting game. Jerry Glanville's defense was actually looking really good. They're getting to the ball. They always were. It seemed like if they could get some better cornerbacks, they'd probably be good, which they might have just done because their cornerbacks always seem to be trailing just a little bit, especially on the slants. They were always just behind, which, all you need's half a yard in an open field and you're screwed.
Yeah.
So,
well, again, it also looks like New York played mistake-free football. I mean, Tampa Bay turned the ball over 3 times, but the Guardians took real good care of it. They didn't fumble it or throw any picks. So, I mean, defensively, I guess the Vipers probably did all they could, but no turnovers, no sacks. I don't know what they were doing.
That's really what it come down to is New York could finish, Tampa Bay couldn't, and that was the game. So not a lot to talk. Go ahead.
Well, so I was going to say the one bright spot for Tampa was this wide receiver Williams here, 6 catches off 9 targets for $123. That's a good day.
It really is. That's like 60%, 70% of Aaron Murray's passes. So that was a good day.
Yeah, Aaron Murray. Oh, of the starting quarterbacks, easily the worst passer rating. I mean, 47% completion percentage, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions with a rating of 45.1. That's not going to get it done.
It's not going to get it done. And not having finished the game this time around, I don't remember where he got hurt, but maybe because he is out next week. It's already been decided. So that maybe his backup may get a little playing time, and maybe he will.
I mean, he can't do much worse.
Yeah, and when it comes down to it, you got to finish in the end zone, and you have to not turn it over. Those are the 2 keys to being a good quarterback. And I think that the game just kind of got away from Aaron Murray because he started out good. But whenever you get down 14-0, you start feeling like you have to do more than you're supposed to or more than you should have to. And that's where a problem. You just need to focus in and play, like you said, mistake-free football. And that's where the Guardians got there. And, I mean, good for them. They got 1 win. But that mistake-free football is not going to work against my DC defenders. So,
no, if they're going to want to win next week, they're going to have to crank it up a bit.
They are. I don't have a whole lot more to say about this game. I wasn't as invested.
Yeah,
it was
pretty one-sided.
Yeah, and it wasn't. Even that other side wasn't too impressive. But it is a start. So,
I mean, 5 sacks. 5 sacks of the defense is pretty impressive.
That is impressive. And I think that's kind of what this game turned out to be. Was more of a
2 of those sacks came from good old Will Sutton.
Well, we talked about him. He was a name, and and maybe he's hitting his path. And which team has Coney Ely? Was that you?
Let's take a quick look. See,
this is horrible for podcasting. But initially I couldn't figure out why Coney Ely was here. What had happened to him? what had really gone down with his life to put him in the XFL. Not that that's a horrible thing, but he was he was on the Roughnecks, and he got him a half a sack, and he played good. He was always providing pressure, and just to backtrack a little bit or forward track, whatever you want to say. I looked up. You know that he had in that Super Bowl with the Broncos and the Panthers, he had, I think, 3 sacks, tying a Super Bowl record.
Yeah, tying Reggie White.
And so what had happened actually is after that, he had sort of a mental breakdown. He lost his, I think his dad and his sister both died in a very short period. And so this has actually building him back up. He said for the first time in a long time, he has a purpose. He has something he's working for. So that's going to be really interesting to watch. And you probably, with PJ Walker being so successful and Coney Ely on that defense, you probably won't see me pick against the Roughnecks very often in the
Unless they're
upcoming
playing
weeks.
DC.
Of course. I mean, listen, good feeling stories, only that good only gets you so far.
True, but I mean, that Roughneck squad just looks good all around, so we'll see what happens.
I mean, 2 teams hit 30, so.
Yep. Let's finish this week with my St. Louis Battlehawks as 9.5 point underdogs going to Dallas and getting it done.
Yeah, and away from home. And I tell you what, one of the leading rushers in the XFL right now, I apologize.
Jones.
No, not even Matt Jones. He is. But what I was getting at was Jordan Ta'amu.
Yeah, he's got some wheels.
Your quarterback, he would just take off. And I was trying to, I want to say his name's Jordan. I'm trying to get through these. Yeah, it is Jordan. Okay. So Jordan Ta'amu, not only does he have one of the highest completion percentage in the XFL right now, but he does have the wheels.
He leads the league in yards per carry.
Yes, he is. And that's what the dual threat brings you. They have to be, I need to stop saying, but you have to put extra defenders on the line in case he runs, which then opens up the receiver. It's the Lamar Jackson quandary right now.
Yep.
I do not believe that Lamar Jackson's that good of a quarterback. I believe he's a really talented runner, and ultimately that's going to catch up for him because, as we saw in the playoffs, as we saw even in games they won with the Bills, and what was the other team in the 49ers? They figured it out. They just figured it out too late because he was really held down on his running yards, his rushing yards, and his passes. So,
Tennessee really figured it out.
Yeah, that's what it came down to, and I think Jordan is going to be kind of the same thing. Ultimately, they will figure it out, but right now he's got a good thing going. He seemed to have some good passes going. Again, no receiver over 100 on this team. Spread it out really nicely.
Not even close to the prediction I had.
No, but let's look at the who was it? Russell was one of your Twin Towers, I believe, or so hard to remember all these names right now. But
I believe it was Russell Washington that I had picked, and
it was it was Carlton Agudosi, and LaDainian Washington. Those were the guys you picked.
Agudosi, I believe Agudosi got hurt. Yeah,
and I think it was Washington. No, it wasn't Washington. Maybe it was Agudosi. I don't know. He's not even listed on my stat sheet.
Yeah, mine neither.
He one of those guys. He hit the corner, or he ran a route like Brandon Riley would run a route. Someone that's a foot shorter than him, and it was impressive. And the nice thing is even though he created space, the quarterback still put it in a spot that Brandon Riley could have caught it in. It was just so one of the best plays I saw all weekend. And I watched Cardell Jones hit Kari Lee for a touchdown. So, that was a pretty big deal, but this was one of the better plays I saw. But Matt Jones rushing, obviously your 3 didn't go over for 100.
No, but not even one.
No, but like I said, Matt Jones was probably the rushing, the best rushing in the XFL so far. 21 attempts, 85 yards, not the best average for it, is still good, but he really put it in there with Ta'amu running. Keith Ford, I think he broke a pretty big one. Yeah, he had a long of 16. Uh, just overall, it was a solid performance. I still like the Battlehawks, especially hitting the road and doing what they did. It was nice.
Yeah, and I think this is their type of game. They're not going to be a flashy offense. I mean, at least not right off the bat. Maybe after Ta'amu gets a little more comfortable back there and they get a little more of that timing built up. But looks like right now they're just going to run the ball, throw it when they have to, and grind you down. I mean, because these are some pretty good offensive numbers, but they only scored 15.
Well, with the running quarterback and a rushing attack like Matt Jones, Keith Ford, and Michael, which Michael I thought would do better than 7 attempts, 0 yards.
0 yards.
Maybe, and I think it's Christine Michael, but I think it turns out, sometimes maybe he's the third down back and they knew it was coming. I don't want to attack him too much, but having that running attack, this just shows why Tom I was so good. They don't always see it, but look at these target versus reception numbers: 4 for 4,
5 for 3, 6 for 4, 5 for 5. Yeah,
1. I mean, everybody was doing their part.
He had a 74% completion percentage, so he was getting the ball where it needed to go.
3 incompletions on 2 receivers. Washington Russell had 2, and 4 incompletions, and Lucas had 2.
Yeah, and it's all ball control because total first downs 24-16 in favor of the Battlehawks, and they had it bounced out too. 11 rushing, 12 passing. They didn't really focus on one thing, so it seems like they just kept the Renegades defense on the field for too long and kept them really off balance.
It was a really good game plan that your coach Jonathan Hayes put out.
And again, no turnovers. That's another big one.
That is probably the biggest. No one's going to deny that. So a good road game going against Bob Stoops, who's, if I'm not mistaken, a hell of a college coach. So this is
and Bobby Blizzard, can't forget him.
Don't want to forget Bobby Blizzard, damn it.
But yeah, no, again, Dallas came in this game as 9.5-point favorites, and they couldn't find the end zone at all. They got 3 field goals. That's all they got all day.
So are they that bad? No. Is St. Louis that good? Maybe. So we'll see as we go on, which leads me to say I'm stupid excited about this weekend. These next 2 days, I'm stupid excited.
Me too, and I don't think Dallas is that bad because they were one of the favorites to win this whole thing. I think, I don't know, maybe week 1 jitters, maybe the St. Louis Battlehawks defensive plan is just going to be a lot better than people are giving them credit for. But yeah, this is a really good first week for the XFL. They put out a really good product, and a lot of the fans are happy about it.
Yes, so let's move on to week 2.
Yep.
Which, again, starts off with my DC Defenders at home.
With a much tougher opponent this time.
I don't think so.
You don't think the Guardians are better than Seattle? You think it's just because the Guardians played Tampa?
I think the Guardians, like I said before, they played a very good game of mistake-free football. But they went up by 14 within the first quarter.
Then they held that lead and built on, though. They didn't get
not much
complacent. They didn't let Seattle come back. They kept on them all 60 minutes.
Yeah, but we got the comeback king and Cardell Jones. So looking at it, we got some key injuries. Kari Lee is probable with the Defenders. Tarpley is questionable though, along with
Kalani
Vakamalialo.
Vakamalialo.
Sorry. Yeah, he's questionable. We won't even go through all the probables because I have a feeling that this is very similar to NFL. They put him on there just because. But Tarpley, although he didn't get my 2 interceptions, he is still a heck of a defender. So that would be a big one if he didn't play. But we got 2 offensive linemen out for the New York Guardians with Garrett Blumfield and Ian Silberman. And then
and I'm not sure those are starters, but I mean, that's one position you don't want to get thin on is your offensive line.
No. So we'll see how this turns out. Obviously, I'm pretty confident in my DC Defenders.
You
Uh,
should be. They played fantastic. I mean, obviously, again, a really small sample size, but right now, I think the DC Defenders is probably one of the top two teams in this league between them and uh, Houston.
we'll watch Matt McGloin, obviously, with the Guardians. Decent outing as a quarterback. We'll see how he gets going, but their best rusher was 32 yards. Uh, Receiving was 58 yards. We got
All you guys need to do is protect your quarterback because, again, they got 5 sacks against Tampa. You better not let them do that to you.
I don't see that happening, but even if it does, we got Cardell Jones. He did a really good job against the Sea Dragons and scrambling and getting out there. That's how some of the biggest plays happen. Is he just broke out of the pocket and hit him downfield. So I look forward to that, and I will make my ultimate pick along with my amazing prediction.
Out there pick here.
So what do we got next?
Next, after your opening game, we have those Tampa Bay Vipers heading to Seattle. So we got the reptile game, the Vipers versus the Sea Dragons.
Now I want to say,
Can we please call this Reptile Bowl?
The what?
The Reptile Bowl.
We can.
Yes, the Reptile Bowl, Part 1.
One thing I do want to say is one of my favorite things of the league, and it's so silly, but the Seattle Dragons, abbreviated down to the Sea Dragons. You've heard me say it. It cracks me up. Can we get this petition going? Can we move Tampa Bay Vipers to Pittsburgh?
The Pit Vipers.
I want the Pit Vipers.
Well, I don't know if they're going to move Tampa Bay right off the bat like that, but if this league is super successful, we could have more teams next year. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll have to look more into this and find good abbreviations. Like maybe we can swap the Wildcats and the Roughnecks, and we can have the Roughnecks. They're the French Cowboys.
I kind of like La Wildcats.
Okay, so we got the Viper Bowl.
The Viper Bowl, the Reptile Bowl.
Oh, the Reptile Bowl. Sorry.
I don't want to call it the Viper Bowl because I don't think they're going to win.
No, because the Seattle, I think, having faced the best team in the league, the best team in the league, they.
Tell you what, because you're my friend, I'll give this to you for now. But I think that'll honestly be decided once we get this Defenders and Houston game down the road.
We are undefeated, so shut your mouth.
So is Houston. so are the Battlehawks.
Stop it. So
are the Guardians who are coming to play you.
No, not for long. Anyway, so the big number here is Aaron Murray is out. Chase Litton, one of the backup quarterbacks, did not participate, so we have no idea where he's at. Other than that, we got questionable tight end. We got a questionable defensive lineman.
We got a defensive tackle who didn't even participate.
My goodness, they are
hurt.
But we also got 2 tight ends out for Seattle. We got a doubtful center, questionable defensive tackle. We got a wide receiver in Williams that's out. A lot of injuries here, but ultimately, I think this is Seattle's game to lose. I think that Zorn, even though he still hides his mouth when he calls plays, like we don't hear him over the TV.
Well, I mean, the other team doesn't hear him. He still doesn't want them reading his lips.
Oh, I don't think it's that big of a deal, Mr. Zorn, but he's set in his ways. I think this will be the comeback game. I think they will win this. I hope Tampa Bay can get more than 3 points. I don't want them getting stuck in this hole because you know how it is. It doesn't take long for you to get down in that hole, and then you're just not coming out of it. You become, the Detroit Lions. You become the Cleveland Browns, and I don't want that for them. Well, yes. So
actually, no, I can't even say that because they couldn't even tank properly.
Mark Trestman, Jerry Glanville, you got to figure they'll figure something out.
I don't know. I mean, I think how I felt after watching, well, not watching, but after checking out the numbers and everything from this game last week, I think I know how Chicago felt for 2 years, and it didn't feel good.
I
It
remember
didn't
him being so touted before he got that job as this offensive genius. We talked about it before.
but
He was so
maybe that,
touted, and then he was horrible in Chicago. There was no doubt about it.
maybe head coaching in America is just not his thing.
Well, maybe so, but he's got his next game to figure this out. Unfortunately, he won't have his starting quarterback. So again, we'll get to our
Or one of
picks.
his backups.
We'll get to our picks later. Now, one thing I do want to bring up, we're halfway through next week. One thing about the XFL is it is very highly touted with the gambling market. I mean, they have spreads listed on the television broadcast. So I'm not going to, I don't think we'll probably delve into that too much, because the last thing I want is anybody to listen to this and be like, you told me they'd cover the spread. I lost $9,000. And I said, well, take it for Maylords because I don't have it.
I mean, if we're just quoting what the bookies put on the website, then that's not on us. We're just reading what they put out.
Yeah, I'm still probably not going to do that too much. If you want to bet on it, call Vegas. They'll help you out.
Yeah, call your bookie. We're not your bookies.
I will tell you, you always bet on the DC Defenders. Take that from Matthew Archibald Ehlers. Always bet on the Defenders.
Don't take that from Matthew Archibald Ehlers, because that is a fictional person.
Why won't you just accept this?
Because that's not my name. My middle name is not Archibald. My middle name doesn't even start with an A.
I'm pretty sure that your name is Archibald. It's in my phone as Archibald.
Yeah, you can put my name into your phone as however you want.
I've never seen my phone lie to me. So.
I could put you into my phone as Dolly Parton. You're not Dolly Parton.
Do you really know that?
100%, yes.
Damn it. Okay. Well, you haven't put me in your phone like that, and your phone may lie. So, Mr. Archibald, we'll move on. We'll make our picks. Okay. Tomorrow, February 15th, would be 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock Central.
On ABC. Yeah, my time's the only time that matters. You can take your mountain time and smoke it.
Look here, Dolly.
Did you call me Dolly?
I did just call you Dolly.
Appreciate it. So, and then the Vipers and Sea Dragons will be the 15th, which should be tomorrow, as we're as we're recording this, and as you are listening to this, probably last week. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to get these out quick. It'll be 4 o'clock on Fox. And then we move on to the Sunday 2 o'clock Central Time game on ABC with the La Wildcats versus the Dallas Renegades.
Yeah, Dallas moving down to LA for their first road game of the year, and I think Dallas is going to have a much better performance offensively against the Wildcats.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty easy thing to say, considering what's going on with the Wildcats. I don't think that the coordinator was the issue in that defense. We'll see. But now the head coach has two responsibilities. He not only has to cover the team, make sure he has good clock management, but he also now has to handle the defensive plays. And I just don't know that in something this early, with everything being so new, with no preseason, with limited practice leading up to it, he put his back up against the wall. Chad Kanoff, quarterback, is out. I honestly couldn't even tell you if he started or not.
Let's take a look, see real quick.
I'm dipping back right now as we talk about it. We also have a running back in Harris that was out. Kanoff did start. He's not playing now. Harris, he didn't really have much offensive, but he did play. So that is someone else out. We have Blacknell.
Blacknell is doubtful.
Not out. He didn't do anything. He didn't really do anything last game, so not big.
Running back DeJuan Harris out.
Who?
DeJuan Harris.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. DeJuan, he had limited involvement in last game, but he did play. Josh Johnson, who, this is one thing about my picks. Whenever I picked the Wildcats, I thought Josh Johnson was going to be playing. So that is a big mistake on my part, not looking at the injury report.
He's still questionable for this week too.
So I don't know that I'll be picking them, but at least they might have a chance to get their real starting quarterback to play. He did have limited participation, so we might be lucky, but we got a center, we got a cornerback, both doubtful, and McKenzie and Miller. Wow, this thing just goes on. And apparently,
LA is very banged up.
And Dallas has a probable injured Landry Jones, a questionable Tristan DeCowd, defensive back, and defensive lineman that's doubtful. So really, they got out of that game pretty good as far as injuries because that is the shortest one I've seen so far.
Yep. But St. Louis.
Oh, we'll get to there. We're still
still gonna be on this Dallas and
ultimately, like I said, I don't have a lot of faith. We don't really know who's starting. Maybe Josh Johnson does get a start, and maybe he's just a miracle on wings. And Spruce has 200 yards receiving since he's the highlight of the team,
and a touchdown. He has to find the end zone.
Yeah, but ultimately, when it comes down to it, I think Dallas's defense is going to be too good for LA.
PJ Walker's going to have another good day.
We're not there yet. We're on the Wildcats and the Renegades. PJ's playing your Battlehawks.
I'm so excited about PJ though. He was so good.
And we'll get there and we'll talk about him. And but I think the Dallas is going to take this one. I think Landry, if he gets to play in this one, again, another reason that Dallas should have done better is they didn't even have him starting. Can you imagine? We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I think that Dallas has this one in the bag because of all the turmoil. Anything else to add?
I just don't know who the offensive stand up for Dallas is going to be because everybody was pretty average in that opener. From running back, quarterback, receivers, there were no standouts.
Or are the Battlehawks defense just that good?
Again, I want to think so because, again, going to this game, everybody was all up on the Dallas side of things. They thought Dallas was going to crush them.
4 sacks from the Battlehawks. So I think that the defenses in that game were the thing. So I think Dallas will have enough defense. I think the defense with the Wildcats is going to suffer from the head coach having to work too much. Yep. We can be proven wrong, but I'm going to act like I know what I'm talking about. I'm going to act like I'm a professional when it comes to picking XFL games. And I look forward to seeing what our picks are because I have a feeling after the results of last week that we're probably going to run the same. So we're also going to be 6-2 next week. But we'll see. I look forward to seeing it. So let's move on. I'll let you take the lead with your St. Louis Battlehawks.
Woo! St. Louis Battlehawks still on the road. Still don't get to play a home game yet. But now we're just going. We're not leaving Texas. We went to Dallas. Now we got to go to Houston. Houston had a crazy day at PJ Walker, Player of the Week. Had a fantastic day, and as good as our defense was against Dallas, I think PJ's still going to get his.
So that is something we talked about. Is you asked me, you didn't ask me. You said, as far as the show format, we're going to talk about Player of the Week, which we haven't done yet, and that's probably my fault. But the XFL Player of the Week voted is PJ Walker, well deserved. Great amount of yards, 4 touchdowns, 4 different receivers. He had
that excellent. One pick, but that was like the only down spot other than the.
And that pick was just it was more or less garbage time. He was just chucking it around because the clock always stops anyway before it's reset. So you don't an incompletion isn't going to ruin you. So just keep chucking it and he threw a pick, but it wasn't bad. But 272 with 4 touchdowns.
And 26 yards rushing.
Yeah,
so
26. So I don't think he's going to be able to put that up on your Battlehawks. I think their defense is too good. He may have a little more rushing yards, a little less passing yards. Cam Phillips he's going to get his targets. He's going to get his receptions. Sammy
I'm just
Coates.
hoping St. Louis will be able to sack him more than once. That's the key. We have to disrupt him because the running game wasn't much. So it's all. So far, that offense is all on PJ.
I think they'll get theirs. I really do. If you don't get 4 sacks on accident, even if it is a bad team, so they'll get theirs. But Brandon Riley's out.
And again, Dallas is not a bad team. They're still one of the favorites to be the first XFL champions.
Well, we all know who the XFL champion is going to be, but
Oh yeah,
uh,
but this game is the probably the shortest injury list.
I'm probably most impressed with the Battlehawks. Really, when it comes down to it, I mean, PJ Walker put up great numbers, but they went as 9.5 point underdogs on the road and got the win. Now, I don't have the betting stats up now, but I wouldn't be surprised if they weren't 9.5 point underdogs again because of the game that the Roughneck put up. So there's a chance that Seattle could take that defense, that very solid offense, and they could go on the road and win again. If they do that, they may be one of the top contenders to go in the championship against my DC Defenders. Now, I'd have to definitely see how
That'd be
this
a
league puts up to see if we can be in the championship together, because I don't even know who's East and West right now. You could ride the line there in St. Louis. So,
well,
uh,
no, I just saw this a little bit ago too. They
I'm
actually
gonna
had
get
the
to the injury report real quick while you're doing that. But Keith Ford's out, which is an ex Bill and a big loss. Brandon Riley's out, which I tell you how much I love him, and he's going to be a big part of your game whenever he's not injured. Will Clark, your defensive lineman's out. Uh, Defensive back David Rivers is out, and then you got a couple of questionable. Matt Jones is questionable, but he did have full participation, so let's hope that he's still in it because you guys need him. Uh, Houston, they got D'Angelo Henderson running back out. Doubtful defensive lineman. Everybody else seems pretty probable. Like you said, pretty small injury report. So,
well compared to the other games, but
but it's a pretty major
having
one. St.
having
Louis.
Brandon Riley out doesn't help anything.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have some pretty, like, your guys aren't questionable; they're out, so that's a pretty
Yeah.
big deal.
Let me go check one thing real quick. I'm trying to see how much of an impact uh, Will Clark is being out. Did he do a whole lot in that first game, Will Clark? Where are you?
That's a really good question, and it's so hard because a lot of these names are new to us, and so we're really pushing to try to remember everything and tell you guys. Uh,
Will Clark wasn't even on the stat sheet last week. He must have been hurt then.
yeah, he's probably still out then, but which
All
gives you
right.
something to look forward to when he comes back. Because Will Clark
It's a little bit
is
of bright
a
spot
beast. I have no
because
idea
you
who
don't.
Will Clark is.
I don't like. I don't like seeing people hurt. In any sport because that doesn't make the game fun. And I'll say it out loud to anybody who might listen to this. If you cheer for an injury, you're a bad fan.
I cheered for one injury ever in life, and you probably can't guess who.
Oh, I bet I could. I bet it rhymes with John Wadey.
you're you're right on. Anyway, so uh, ultimately, this one will probably be the toughest one for us to pick. You are going to have to go with your team because it is your team. But where I go, this may be something we differ on because PJ Walker did look good. It's still early, but I do have a lot of faith in that defense.
He did, but I'm going to pick St. Louis. I think they have the ability to go home with their home opener at 2-0, and that'd be huge for them. As long as they can keep that pass rush up and disrupt PJ Walker, they have a chance to win that game. And I'm going to have faith in them.
I'm gonna root for them because although the DC Defenders are the best team in the XFL and my team and my favorite, I still will root for the Missouri team, even though it's Eastern Missouri, which barely counts. So that game is also Sunday, 5 o'clock
Sunday at
Central,
5 Central.
on the famous FS1. Ooh,
So are we doing the picks backwards then? Are we now doing the Dallas and LA one?
well, I mean, I haven't picked. I'd like to start over from the beginning. I know you kind of already made your pick, but I would kind of like to.
That's because I thought just the way you went, I thought that's where we were starting. I thought you were
I know.
up on.
I kind of jumped ahead because it is like a lot of these I think are pretty cut and dry how we're going to pick, and this is the one that's probably the toughest. So that's why I brought it up. I probably shouldn't have, but I would like to start. And if you even want to work back, since you already made that, I'm just not going to make that pick till the end. So you can start from the beginning, or you can work backwards.
No, I'll go back to the beginning with you. If it ain't
Okay.
broke, don't fix it.
All right. Well, I am picking my DC Defenders. I don't really care what the spread is. I think the New York Guardians play good, mistake-free football, but they don't have the explosiveness to take on what the DC Defenders and Cardell Jones can do. I think that we are going to run the score up, and then they're going to have trouble keeping up, and that's when our defense gets opportunistic. They get the picks. I don't care if we traded off one of the guys that got a pick. Just give someone else a chance to get one. So my DC Defenders with the victory.
Do they win even if AJ Tarpley doesn't play?
Yes, but it will hurt me in my soul, but they will still win. I love that guy. I really do.
Oh no, he was flying all over the field when when he got to play. It sucks to hear that he got hurt already, but hopefully it's nothing too serious.
No, we're thinking about you, AJ, and we will find you. That sounds horrible. We will attempt to get a hold of you to come on our show. We will find you and we will make you talk to us. No. So one thing I do want to say is this show is new and we appreciate it is a strictly YouTube podcast, which I know is funny because YouTube is usually videos and we're just putting on audio. But that is strictly our format right now. We're on there and we have just started. Literally, Matt calls me and says, "Hey, do you want to do a podcast?" I said, "I want to do anything I can with you, Mr. Archibald Ehlers." And he said, "Well, let's do the XFL." I said, "Okay." And so we started this up, and you guys heard the first episode we ever did. There was no lead up to it. We talked the day before to kind of get an idea what we're going to do, and we just went after it. And that's how we're going to do this. So the nice thing for you guys, one, you get to hear us fail. You get to hear our uhs and ahs. You get to hear us learning as we go.
You get to hear us. You get to get in on the ground floor.
You do. You get to be with us from the beginning. You get to be the first people to own the good T-shirt that we're going to put out. But I have a little bit more practice than Matt because I do have Wrestling in Review, which actually hasn't been released yet because we're going to go podcast route. You know, you'll probably find it when we do release it on the iTunes, on the Spotify, stuff like that. So, but that will be coming out. But I've been doing this for 6 weeks now, doing that. So.
Wait, now, Wrestling Review, would that be your weekly wrestling recap?
It is Wrestling in Review, your weekly wrestling recap. Home of the 24/7, 48/7, 7-Eleven, I-95 South European TV champ. Sorry, not really. But anyway, so look for that if you like wrestling. It is strictly kayfabe. I don't know if you guys are supposed to know that, but it's a wonderful show. Lots of comedy. Me and my friend Chris do it. So when it hits you, find it.
Our friend Chris.
Our friend Chris. That's true. It's our friend Chris. And so you guys are on the ground floor, but we are growing. I spent all my day getting it set up to where I can go video so we can actually start going live on YouTube and have video of us doing this. So
one day you get to see these faces and go, ugh.
Yeah, you got like, oh my God, they are way balder than I thought he was. But anyway, so we're going to work on doing that. And we are going to probably have the website. I haven't purchased it yet, but it's probably going to be upthegutpodcast.com. So we're growing and you're here with us. Tell your friends, tell your family,
tell your mom,
and your mother, especially, because all moms love Matt Ehlers. I don't know why. I think it's the old school Archibald name. It brings the mothers right in.
That's not my name. It's because I'm a gentleman.
That is true. He is a gentleman. So we're going to request that you guys like the video, subscribe to the video, the audio video, and do all that. Share it with whoever you want.
And give us feedback.
Yeah, feedback.
Tell us if we're doing something wrong.
Nah, we actually have some feedback. I don't know if you read some of the Facebook comments that are going. It has been
a couple, but nothing on YouTube except for my one friend welcoming us to the internet, which was nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's a nice introduction. But yeah, listen and just put your thoughts down, positive or negative. Just if you know of a way we can make the show better, tell us.
We really are. I won't say we. I went off on a tangent here, but get on YouTube, like, subscribe, tell us what you think, leave a comment. It's not just that we're planning on getting horribly rich off of this, but when it comes down to it, YouTube algorithms, comments, likes, and subscribes, that's what counts. So you just throw a comment, say, hey, good job, or Patrick needs to shut up, or why don't you accept your name's Archibald? Whatever the comment needs to be, just throw a quick comment down there. Matt usually handles most of the replies. I do now have the ability to, but someone will reply to you, and just watch us grow. And we look forward to growing with you guys and being the premier XFL podcast.
The one thing I do promise is if you call me Archibald, I will respond with "That's not my name," and that's all I'm going to respond with.
He's been doing it for years, so yes, that is what he'll respond with. So ultimately, we do plan on having seeing if we can get access to players, do interviews on here. That is my goal. So this all started with me saying we're going to get AJ Tarpley on the show. A really creepy way of saying it, but we will get AJ Tarpley, and we will get every former Buffalo Bill on this show. And I will say, hey guys, whenever you ball out and kill it in the XFL and you're like going back to the NFL, hit up Buffalo, because we're going to be in the playoffs a lot.
And maybe the NFL, because, once the NFL regular season starts, we'll try to do podcasts for that too.
We probably will do that too. I don't know that we'll have as much of a chance to get it on an NFL, but you know what? Patrick Mahomes doesn't live far from me. I'll just drive by and knock. But anyway.
Neither does the walrus.
I won't tell him I'll find him because I live way too close.
You don't have to find him. You offer him cheeseburgers, he'll come to you.
Hey, listen, him and Baron Corbin, or we're going to go eat some barbecue.
No, not without me. You better tell me when that happens.
Well, come back.
That's a day.
So we're going to move on, and I will do some... we'll probably start up a Facebook at some point too, so you guys can keep up. Yep. And we'll I'll try to
put a Twitter together for it.
Yeah, and maybe we'll do like a Facebook Live, because I do plan on going to a St. Louis game here and there. I'm not going to drive all the way to DC to see my guys, but St. Louis is close enough. I'll probably hit up at least a game, if not a couple. So,
I mean, the Defenders will come to St. Louis eventually.
Yeah, they do. So next game up, we got. I picked the DC Defenders. Who did you pick?
DC. Honestly, I think this week, we probably got the same 4 picks. These games seem a lot more, now that we've seen a sample size, I think it's a lot easier to pick these games, and I think we're kind of on the same wavelength.
I think so. So now we're up to Sea Dragons, or the Vipers, Tampa Bay Vipers at the Sea Dragons, the Reptile Bowl.
And I'm pretty sure, I'm going to guess and say we're both picking Seattle.
We are. I think Seattle is a lot better team than what they showed against the Defenders. I think the game got out of hand. Like I said, and
I think the Vipers are just as bad as they showed.
A big success, and Aaron Murray's out. So a big success in football, a big way to be successful in football and NFL and college is you get the lead early and you make their offense one-dimensional, because then your defense knows what's coming. If you're up by 21 points, you know that they're going to have to throw it because they got to get points quick to catch up. So then you pin your ears back, you get to the quarterback, you drop the coverage. That's all you got to. I mean, it's obviously harder than that, but that's what you need to do.
Especially against that Tampa Bay pass protection, which didn't look great.
So pretty easy pick, Seattle. So there's 2-0 right there.
Yeah.
Dallas at the Wildcats.
I'm taking Dallas.
I am also taking Dallas. I think Dallas is. There's a reason they were picked to be the winner of, or the most successful XFL team, win the championship, however you want to phrase it. I think the Wildcats have way too much turmoil going on. I think the coach is going to
too. They were banged up.
Yeah, and I think the head coach is going to find that this isn't the league to try to wear 2 hats. So I'm going to wear 1 hat, and it's the Renegade hat. And there's 3 picks, so we got the same. That was a pretty easy one to go through. So this is
honestly this last one here is the toughest one. I mean, I'm taking St. Louis, but I honestly feel like that's just more of a loyalty pick.
It is, and I like that it's so early and you still have that.
It's not to say St. Louis can't win, but it's on them. It's their game to lose, honestly. Houston has all the talent they need to win it. Everybody knows it. PJ is still going to get his numbers. Hopefully not nearly as big as he did last week. But it all comes down to that St. Louis defense and whether or not they can step up again and disrupt that offense and not let them just go crazy.
This tells you how good I feel about St. Louis that I haven't picked Houston. Everybody in the country they've already picked Houston to win. They put
Yeah.
up 37 points. Seattle could only manage 15. I mean, this seems like an obvious pick, but I don't think it is. I think
I mean,
Seattle's got the defense to hold that Houston offense down. I don't know that the offensive.
St. Louis, not Seattle.
Sorry, yeah, St. Louis. Sorry, I'm caught up in my own head. I got to figure this out. So St. Louis has the talent. They got the defensive talent. I don't think they have the offensive talent, especially with the questionable running backs. So I am going to go not only to be contrary to you, to have an option for one of us to,
Take the
go
lead.
up on, to take the lead, but also because you went against my defenders last week. So I am going to go Houston Roughnecks, PJ Walker, MVP.
2 weeks in a row.
He is going to ball. No, he's not. I don't think he's going to ball out like he did. I think Cardell Jones gets Player of the Week this week. So
now, what's your crazy prediction for this week? What's your way out there prediction?
now we
In
got to
which
do
game?
two predictions. We got to have a statistical prediction for one of these games, whether it's sacks, whether it's quarterback numbers, whether it's rushing.
Yeah. And what's yours?
And then we got to have an off the wall out there. So mine, obviously, I'm going to stick with my team. So I'm going to do a DC Defender pick. And this one's tough because I wanted to really say we're going to have one of the running backs to go with. So I'm going to keep it pretty simple. I'm going to say Cardell Jones has another good day. This time he goes over 65% completion. He's going to have over 250 yards. He's going to have 3 touchdowns. Eli Rogers is going to go over 100, and Jay Presley, he will go over 50 yards rushing and have 1 touchdown.
Ooh.
That is pretty solid in the prediction category, considering. Really, it's possible, but I think the Guardians' defense is better than the Dragons, so that's really, I think, a pretty solid pick. So, what's your in the realm of possibility pick?
My in the realm possibility pick is that Matt Jones plays. He goes over 102 touchdowns.
That's a good one. I like it. I do. So
and then my crazy pick, like my just off the wall pick, Ta'amu has a PJ type of day.
Nice.
He goes for almost 304 touchdowns.
I think I'm going to go if I can get through my stats good enough. So my off the wall pick that most likely isn't even possible, but I'm going with it anyway.
Well, that's why it's off the wall.
Exactly. So I'm going to say that Brandon Silvers plays for the Sea Dragons.
Okay.
Because he's probable.
Yeah.
Full participation ankle. I'm saying he goes over 250, and Austin Prohl goes over 150 with 3 touchdowns. Does that seem pretty off the wall?
Honestly, against Tampa Bay, maybe not as off the wall as you think. Those are still like huge numbers compared to what we saw in week 1, but
did I say Prohl would have 3 touchdowns?
Yes, you did.
Someone else have 2. So Brandon Silvers is going to throw 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's pretty off the wall.
Okay, good. I had to up it because
it's only because they're playing Tampa Bay. If they're playing any other team besides Tampa Bay and the Wildcats, I've been like, that's crazy.
Well, I don't even know who Silvers is. So 53% completion rate, 217, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He clearly likes to sling it, but 5 touchdowns, 250 yards with 150 of them going to Prohl, who's a slot receiver.
And no interceptions?
I'm not going to say that. He'll have at least 1 if he's slinging it like that. But that is what's nice about this league is since, you can keep throwing it in the 4th, it really could. Yeah. I was having a little trouble. One thing we will talk about is I think we've kind of wrapped up last week and this week. How are we doing on time? I don't even know where we're at. We're still doing good.
Yeah, hour 10. And we're going to trim it down some.
Shouldn't be a lot. That's what I hope to get is kind of get the natural. We'll say some stupid stuff. We'll mix in some uhs and ahs, but ultimately what it comes down to is you guys just hearing a couple buddies talk about football.
Yeah, and that's the American dream.
It really is. If I could, I love my wrestling podcast, but there's very few things in life I love as much as I love football. I love everything about it. And I never really was able to get into college as much because everything's always so one sided, you know. You got the big name teams playing these nowhere colleges. So that just never really hit me. It wasn't the scoring, it was the battle back and forth. So that's why I
And
like this. And I
there's
think
just so
this
much.
is,
There's just so much more to keep track of in college.
there's a lot of college teams too.
A lot of college players they got to watch out for in the draft, and so much.
So let's talk a little bit, if you would humor me, about some of the pitfalls we have with the XFL so far. It is a new league. It is fresh, so there are going to be some things. I know that you went to watch some games, and your area was blacked out. My area it wasn't. It wasn't that it was blacked out. It just kept blacking out.
Yeah,
Uh, and then
and
I
then,
was
and
I was doing some family stuff, so I was on the XFL website and I was following the stat line, and I kept telling you that Cardell Jones is almost to that 300. You're like, no, he's only at 235. So because I had him at 290 on the website, uh, but I realized that it was off whenever Tampa Bay, their quarterback had a passing touchdown and they only had 3 points. So some of the stats updating on the website were off.
yeah.
Talk on that a little bit.
I mean, I think it's just technical difficulties. You don't see them a lot in the NFL though, because they've been doing it for so long, and
They got
I'm
the
guessing,
money.
and they definitely got the money. Well, Vince has money, but I don't know. I guess it's just first week glitches. You know, they've had another week now to iron it out. Hopefully this weekend. You know, if anyone else did have to miss the games last week, it won't have to happen again.
So
One tip though, if you want to stream the games on ESPN, they don't stream the games that air on Fox.
Which I think I'm going to be able to help you on watching the games if you have trouble this week. So we'll look at that. But
I would love to get to watch these games from beginning to end and really get a good look at them.
so one thing also is the commentating that they had for the games. Obviously, you had uh, a bro that you weren't too happy at listening to. I hope it's not McElroy.
I don't know who it was. I never got to catch her name. It's just the sound of his voice. Again, maybe it's just me. Maybe everyone else loved him. But
I
that
doubt
sound
it.
that sound just hit my ears. I was just like, I don't like this. But at the same time, though, at the St. Louis and Dallas game, we had the great Pat McAfee on the sideline.
I love Pat McAfee. I really shouldn't, but I really did enjoy Pat McAfee, and I listen to his podcast. Sorry,
Why shouldn't you enjoy Pat McAfee? He's awesome.
I don't know. I just feel like I shouldn't love him the way I do.
And he never played for any rival team against your Bills, so you don't have to hate him for that.
And he was a punter, even though they're people too. And that's one thing that really cracked me up is Marquette King dropped a dime on the 1 yard line.
The worst play of the week.
And one of his teammates just bowls it over and gets him a touchback, like dropped it. And Pat, who is impressive in his film study, let alone he just went off.
Yeah, he did. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. Just don't jump on it. What are you doing?
And like I said, the one thing that really cracked me up about Pat is listening to his podcast. He said he doesn't know how long he'll be doing it, mainly because he is the go everywhere, do everything, do what I want, when I want, how I want type of guy now. Yep. And I guess he has to ask for permission before he does anything. So before he talks to anybody, and he's just so. I hope he sticks with it in one way or another. Whether they put him up in the booth instead of on the sideline,
that's what they need to do. Because on the sideline you got to ask because you're on the sideline. Things happen there. If you're in the booth, you can say whatever you want because you're not going to get in anyone's way. So if they want Pat McAfee to be a part of this league, they need to get him off the sideline and put him in the booth. That's where he belongs.
Yeah. So. Ultimately, I think it did really good. I think there's some stuff that they need to work on.
Mostly just technical difficulties because all the rules that they put into it, these games went really smooth. Yeah. All of them did.
They really did. The reffing was good. The reviews were good.
The
And-
pace was good.
Yeah, the
None of
pace
these
was good.
None of these games went longer than the 3 hours they were slotted.
One of the things I was getting with the commentators, though, is in the Tampa Bay game, Greg Olson was commentating.
Really? How'd he do?
It really wasn't bad. He stumbled over his words quite a bit, which is to be expected. I'm having trouble trying to do it, talking about it before. He probably has some sort of thing up there throwing stats or someone's talking in his ear, but ultimately he did pretty good. But he did stumble over some stuff. There was one point he was talking about Tampa Bay's touchdown and how they were able to smash it in. I'm like, but they did score a touchdown. So ultimately he had some issues, but he did pretty good. So
yeah, because I'm pretty sure that's his first day in the booth because he just retired, didn't he?
No, he is not retired.
He didn't? I thought he did.
No, he is actually he's going around. He just got released. And he has been bound. I think he is currently in talks with the Buffalo Bills, the Seattle Seahawks, and the Washington Redskins.
Oh my goodness! I mean, I don't know how much he has left in the tank because he's been in the league for a hot minute. He's 34.
He's always been so good, though.
He has been, but age hits everybody.
Though.
Yeah, and he's going to be 35 when this season starts. And honestly, outside of the quarterback position, that's old in the land of football, in the land of the NFL.
Oh, it really is. I mean, he is definitely on the tail end of his career, but where I think that he would fit in, because I know what I know about Buffalo, is he would go good there because he's got that experience. And we have a very young second year going into a second year, Dawson Knox, who has showed promise. But I think that someone like Greg Olson, who's had the career that he's had, would be a wonderful mentor towards him. But I think he can still provide a solid window or a solid safety blanket for Josh Allen because he knows how to get open. Is he going to get open every play of every game? No. But in key third downs, is Greg Olson going to do some? Yes, he's going to. So that's my opinion. I think he'd be great in Buffalo. But that's not the XFL. In the XFL, he was commentating, and he is looking to life after football, and he did a good job. He was solid.
Yeah, it's good to look ahead. Plus, again, if he does retire and hits the booth for XFL, that's a good name to have when you look into it. Any way you get a big name to be part of your league, whether it's in the booth or coaching or even just you see him sitting in the stands at a game, that's still good exposure.
Yes. So I know I said that we weren't going to get into betting too much, and we're not. But I really had to know where the Battlehawks were, and they are actually 7-point underdogs to the Roughnecks.
Yeah, well, after the way the Roughnecks played Week 1, it doesn't surprise me. And again, this is a game that St. Louis could lose, but I'm hoping that they just stand strong, grind out another victory. I'll take another 15-9 victory. That's fine by me.
I think that if St. Louis wins this game, having been 7 and 9.5 point underdogs in 2 road games, I think that they may end up being one of the. I think they may. I don't know. They've definitely made the largest point in all of the XFL.
Yeah,
because that is. I mean, that's a big deal. The DC Defenders were 9.5 point favorites, and we did that. But that's what we were expected to do.
Yeah.
So I think the St. Louis being such big underdogs in their first 2 games, both of them, the reason obviously they're being underdogs is they're both road games, which are home field advantage is a big deal. And I don't know if you noticed, but the crowds at these are not only full, but passionate and energetic, which is amazing for a league that just started. Having them, I mean, the boos when the calls didn't go their way. Maybe they're just selling drinks cheaper.
All the little foam shields at the Defenders game.
Yeah, I don't want one of those, but
you don't want one. Why not? No,
I don't want
you to get
shield.
one of those. I want you to get one of those big metal ones like that the cop was having in the little like video package.
Yeah, no,
You know-
I'm down with having a huge one.
Yeah, the actual shield.
I'll try to get a hold of when we go video, have a DC flag hanging out behind me or something. Maybe have half of it DC and the other half Buffalo, because this may be an XFL podcast, but my loyalty runs deep.
I mean, I think we could do both because they don't run at the same time. I think this could be just a pure football podcast, but
until the XFL pays us for our opinions, I do what I want.
Yeah. Right, just like Pat McAfee.
Yes, exactly. No permission. I do what I want, when I want, how I want. And Pat McAfee, if you would like to interview me, that would be weird.
But awesome.
I want to go to a studio. That actually looks like a good time. Maybe we ought to work on interviewing Pat McAfee on our show, and he'll tell us that we probably ought to get a different job because this isn't going to work out.
Yeah. That's how a lot of the best stories start. Like, they said I shouldn't do it, but I kept doing it, and now look at me.
Well, even if everybody in the world told me to stop doing this, given the chance to talk football, and not only talk football, but talk football with one of, if not my best friend, Archibald Ehlers, I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that chance all day, every day.
Oh man, this is a good episode.
I really hope so. I hope that everybody else likes it. Again, like, subscribe, comment, do all of them now.
I mean, I feel like it went better than last week's.
Last week we had a lot of information to go through, and that was one of the things that really hurt me deep down in my soul when I listened to it. It's all the ums and ahs as I tried to figure out a person, as I tried to figure out why that name was familiar. We're going to start getting more and more. I mean, we're at least smart enough to look at injury reports this week.
Yeah. See, every week we learn something.
We live, we learn. I hope that everybody enjoys it. Share it on your Facebooks. I mean, do what you got to do. Don't share it if you don't want to, but we thoroughly enjoy this. And if you haven't watched a game, check out a game. If you are going to check out a game, maybe not watch something with the Wildcats in it. That's not a good first impression.
Or Tampa.
Yeah, that may not. Yeah, if you want to watch a game, either if you didn't watch it the first week and you don't know what to think about it, and you thought, man, I listened to Up the Gut, the John Cena football podcast, and thought, man, maybe I should watch this. Either tune in 1:00 Central on Saturday, or tune in at 5:00 Central
on Sunday,
because those are going to be the games of the weeks. Probably the Battlehawks and the Roughnecks will be the game of the week, because the Defenders are going to blow out the Guardians again, but you'll get a good performance from either one of those.
Yeah.
So thank you.
More than anything, just if you like football, I think you'll like the XFL. We think you'll like the XFL.
And it's getting good reviews, so we're not the only ones. I want to thank everybody for listening. If you stuck around for all hour and 23 minutes of it, that is impressive. I want to thank Matthew Ehlers for doing this with me again this week. Look for us to record next week on a Monday, so all this stuff's fresh in our heads. Matt will hopefully probably get it out quick. Hopefully there won't be a whole lot of editing to do.
Not if we record on Monday at the latest, I should have it up by Wednesday, which is still plenty of time before the games actually hit.
Sounds amazing. Thanks everybody. Thanks for all these likes, and thanks for all these subscribes. And again, our ultimate goal is to get some video up, and maybe we'll start doing these live. So then we don't even have to edit it. We'll just throw it up there, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, you get to see these ugly mugs.
My gosh, why would we do this to these people?
So we don't have to edit.
That's where it's at. And you've been listening to Up the Gut, your and mine and Archibald's XFL podcast.
Still not my name, but yeah, and same as last week. Tell your mom about us.
Up the Gut. A play in American football in which the player runs the ball through the middle of the field through defenders.